Some crimes don't just disturb you, they follow you. They stay in your head long after the story ends. This is one of those crimes. A case so horrifying that experienced jurors wept. One collapsed, and another ran out of court, refusing to hear more. A case where a teenage girl was tortured in ways detectives said they had never imagined a human could endure. This is the murder of Kelly Ann Bates, a story of 100 days of terror and the monster who engineered them. Kelly was just 14 when she met 48-year-old James Patterson Smith. She thought she met a lonely, gentle man. She didn't know he had a history of abusing teenage girls before her. Girls he beat, controlled, manipulated, and terrified. Kelly was simply next. Smith groomed her patiently. Flattery, kindness, attention, classic predator behavior. And Kelly, young and trusting, believed he cared. Kelly changed slowly. Then suddenly, her laughter faded. Her clothes hid injuries. Her explanations became rehearsed lies. Her parents begged her not to see Smith, but Smith had already taken control. At 16, Kelly moved into his house, the same house where 2 previous teenage girlfriends had escaped from after horrific abuse. But Kelly didn't get that chance. Inside Smith's home, everything changed. The curtains were always shut. Visitors weren't allowed. Phones were disconnected. The outside world simply vanished. And Kelly disappeared with it. Smith cut her off from everyone. Family, friends, life itself. This wasn't a relationship. It was captivity. What unfolded over the next months was so extreme that the judge later called it the most severe and prolonged torture I have ever seen. Court records and forensic evidence confirmed. Smith tortured Kelly repeatedly, deliberately, methodically. She was starved, kept physically weak. She was beaten frequently, injuries found across her body. She was burned. She was kept tied up for long periods. She was repeatedly submerged under cold water in what resembled drowning attempts. She was forcibly deprived of sleep. She was isolated completely. She was psychologically broken through threats, manipulation, and constant terror. She suffered multiple sharp force injuries to limbs and scalp. Her hands and knees showed signs of prolonged restraint and impact. And then came the detail that destroyed the courtroom. Forensic examiners found that Kelly's eyes were severely injured and removed before she died. And even more horrifying, injury marks were found in those same areas afterward, indicating multiple stab-like wounds inflicted even after the eyes were taken. No gore, no graphic description, just the cold, clinical facts. And that was enough to freeze the entire room. Her suffering wasn't seconds or hours. It was weeks, possibly months. One pathologist said Kelly likely survived many injuries because she was young, which tragically meant she endured even more. In her final days, Kelly was extremely weak, malnourished, injured, and barely able to stand. But Smith didn't stop. Her final injuries, according to medical testimony, happened while she was still alive. The cruelty never paused. One evening, after what investigators described as another violent episode, Kelly collapsed. Smith waited hours before seeking help. Then he walked into a police station and said only, "My girlfriend had an accident." When police entered the home, even veteran officers froze. Nothing they saw suggested an accident. The injuries were too many, too deliberate, too patterned, too systematic. The forensic team realized they were looking at one of the worst domestic torture cases in British history when the injuries were presented in court. Clinically, non-graphically, the reaction was immediate. A juror burst into tears. Another fainted. One ran out sobbing. The judge struggled to maintain composure. This wasn't just murder, this was sustained torment. Smith showed no remorse, no emotion, no humanity. The jury took less than 1 hour to convict him. He received life in prison with a recommendation he never be released. Even today, officers say Kelly's case is the one they cannot forget. A story of a bright young girl destroyed by a man who hid his monstrosity behind a normal face. A story of how grooming works, how isolation works, how predators operate in silence. Even today, officers say Kelly's case is the one they cannot forget. A story of a bright young girl destroyed by a man who hid his monstrosity behind a normal face. A story of how grooming works, how isolation works, how predators operate in silence. Kelly Ann Bates was only 17. Her story is painful, terrifying, but it must be told. Because behind every closed curtain, behind every isolated teenager, behind every quiet house, there could be another Kelly. And silence is what Monsters depends on.